Cool Game 24 here, and this is my Breaking Bad Season 5 Episode 2 review titled Magical. So, you know the title. It's Magical Electric, the German company that Gus worked with. And this particular episode is going to tell you exactly how Gus worked, how he chose the people he dealt with in the criminal underworld. Before he met Walt, he was a careful person. Now he met Walt, he's dead now. But you see his associates, the people that he, in this episode, you see how loyal they are to him, and you see the structure he had in his organization. Now, right off the bat, when the episode, when it opens up, you see a guy taste testing different sauces for, different flavors of sauces for nuggets, I think, yeah. And he has no emotion on his face, like he's cold. But then after that, while he's doing that, he he gets a an urgent message in his ear from his assistant, and she tells him that there's 3 people in there waiting for him to talk to him. They came here again from a previous day. So we see him walking out of the building, out of the little complex, and you see right down the hall, like, as he walked, he looked up and you see the Pollo Miles sign and see him taking it down. And looked like, he took a, at least like a 2 or 3 second stare at it. He walked over, he sees the inspectors, the German inspectors, wanting to talk to him, and the police. And then he takes the defibrillator and goes in the bathroom. And while his assistant asking him, what's going on, what's wrong, the cops are there, the German police are there, and they're asking him to open the door up. They want to question, they want to talk to him, and instead of talking to the cops, which he would likely should have done, well, not should have done, but they wanted him to do, he put the sports wire and the patch on himself and charged the defibrillator up and killed himself. And to me, that shows a very, 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 very dark sense of loyalty. It's kind of a dark loyalty thing for me that I've seen right there. He, instead of talking to the police even about Gus' involvement, and he probably could have walked away, but instead of just talking to them, he just killed himself, which showed a very, 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 very dark loyalty complex, in my opinion. It was kind of dark, like I said, dark loyalty. But then after that, before that, while he was walking there, they showed a picture with him and Gus, so I think they was friends. And this is the same person, probably the contact that gave him all that equipment to build the meth lab, the super lab. Now we cut to a scene where, before I talk about this, I'm not calling Walt Walter White anymore. I'm not calling him Walter. I'm calling him Heisenberg. This is who he is. This is Heisenberg. This is no longer Walt. So Heisenberg, you see him with the ricin and a pack of cigarettes, and in the background, Jesse's concerned about, Brock or Andrea or somebody finding it in his house. And, Walt, my fault. Heisenberg basically replaced the cigarette and put it in with salt, the container that had the container of ricin with salt, and he put the ricin inside of plug-in socket next to his bed. So, you know, you see him and Jesse's looking for the ricin. They turning everything over, and you see Walt really putting, I mean, you see Heisenberg really putting, you know, a lot of work to it, a lot of work into finding it. So Walt suggested that they look inside the you know, a little robot that Jesse has to clean up the mess on the floor. He found it. Now this was kind of a, you know, showing Heisenberg manipulator that he is. He manipulated Jesse's emotions, but he didn't know he was gonna, you know, manipulate Jesse's emotion this bad, where, you know, he played it off like, yeah, I'm glad we found it, you know, he threw it in the toilet, the salt in the toilet, the fake rice in the toilet, and then he came out and Jesse was crying. Jesse was crying about, you know, how stupid he was. He's trying to, you know, how stupid can he be that he didn't even, he pulled the gun on Walt, and, you know, Walt is, you know, telling him, you know, calm down, it had to be done, Gus had to die, and not Jesse's not knowing that, you know, Heisenberg planned the whole thing just to get rid of Gus. So I think my last review last week, I think Jesse still has a bunch of weak characteristics, but, you know, because he's still getting played by Walt. But I hope that change. I know it's going to change in the near future. Then after that we see, let's see, let me think. Oh, here we go. We see Heisenberg, Walt, and Jesse. Oh, my fault. I gotta get used to calling him Heisenberg. Heisenberg and Jesse comes over to make a deal with Mike to be a third partner and to restart building the drug empire that they lost. So, you know, they proposed, you know, Heisenberg was telling him, you know, the money's going to be split 3 ways. And the reason why we need you, Mike, is because you got the connections, you know how to run business, and you can really help us out. And then, you know, Mike answered him with, you know, the proposal, saying, you know, you're a time bomb. You're ticking away, and I don't want to be anywhere near when you go off. And Heisenberg, his style, with a straight face, tells him, why don't you sleep on it? So after that we see Chow. No, not Chow. Here we go, yeah. We see the people that the German guy, the guy that killed himself, his people come in and talk with the DEA. And they tell him that, you know, he was a loyal guy, he was quiet, he worked with them ever since 1992, which was a long time to now. And they said that they didn't know that, you know, he had any involvement with Gus. And, you know, they said, they was like, you know, an innocent man don't kill himself. And they, you know, and they was like, you know, allegedly he killed himself if he was even involved with this. So after that we see this woman walk in, aka the new character of Breaking Bad. Her name is Lydia. Yeah, Lydia. Well, Lydia is kinda, you know, panicky. My first impression of Lydia is she's kinda uptight. You know, to me, when I seen her, she was, when she ordered all of the fancy stuff in a diner that doesn't hold that stuff, and she can't order the fancy stuff in a regular diner. I felt like that she was kind of high class, and that's kind of, you know, sense of showing that who Gus actually dealt with. He dealt with the high class people. And business people. So, you know, Mike was in there already when Lydia came in. So she was trying to be inconspicuous, but he was like, you know, I'm gonna go over there, you know, like, you can't be inconspicuous because I go here all the time, you know. It looks like he go there all the time, and the waiter proved it. So Lydia and Mike had a conversation, and she handed him off. She said that we have some loose ends to tie up. She handed him a list to 11 people. He handed back, I mean, he looked at it and said, these are my guys. Why would you tell me to kill my own guys? This is the real world. You don't kill 11 people without you know, you don't kill 11 people without a reason. And she's like, well, didn't you have to shoot Chow in order to you know, keep them straight? Well, that was one time, and you know, Mike said that was one time, man. He remember, he know how to stay in line. And Mike said something also. He's like, you know, Gus made sure that if he died, he would leave these people something so they wouldn't talk. And I taught them how not to talk to the police. So he told her, you don't have to worry. And she, you know, she looked panically. And after that scene, you see Mike. He is the next person being interrogated. Then you see Chow. They have a little conversation. Chow still looks scared of Mike. And, you know, then he goes to be interrogated by Hank. And Hank, you know, before I tell you this scene, Hank, his partner, I forgot his name, Gomez, and his boss was having a conversation about Gus, how Gus hid the fact that he was a drug kingpin. But his boss, I think his boss really, Hank's boss really took it personal. He's like, how can I not see this when this guy was under my nose? And when you see, when he says that, you know, you know, his boss said, I had this guy over for barbecues and stuff, and he taught me a technique for me to, you know, different barbecue styles. And how can I not see him? How can I not see this guy? He had another life. And you see the camera angle go close up on Hank, signaling that Hank is dealing with the same situation. If anybody has read into the, you know, the camera angles, that's what Breaking Bad is so cool. Then after that, to the Mike interrogation, like I said before. They were interrogating Mike, but in my opinion, Mike was countering everything they was saying. You know, everything Hank had to say, he had a counter. You know, he had an answer for. And then Mike finally put together that Mike was a former cop. And you know, Hank asked him, why would you need to work for a guy who had a drug empire? But previous to that, you know, Mike played it off and said, you know, I work for security. I work for all the Pollo Hermanos, you know, security. And I looked at background check and everything else, but I don't know nothing about anything about a drug empire. And that's the first I'm hearing about it. So Hank tells him, you know, he tells him, you know, how could you not know? And I'm wondering why someone like you would work for him. And you know, Hank put together that he was an idiot. Like I said before, he was a former cop. And he's like, I just don't get it. So Mike was like, you know, am I arrested? You know, just leading to like I'm getting arrested here. And they said, no, you're not arrested. He's like, well, can I leave then? So while he's about to leave, the number they found from last episode where Walt kind of hit a chain reaction, which was Walt fault for, you know, doing, I mean, not Walt, Heisenberg's fault for, you know, putting so much, you know, power on that magnet. You know, the cops found out the number, and it led them to all types of bank accounts. And a bank account that it led to was Mike's granddaughter. $2 million. Gus left $2 million for her. Hank's what's it called, his granddaughter, Mike's granddaughter. So Hank tried to play the card, so see if Mike was weak, and he told him, if you tell me everything about Gus and the organization, you can probably keep that money for your granddaughter. And he said, well, I know nothing about no money. So Mike was playing with his granddaughter, and he receives a call from Chow, and he goes there not knowingly that it's a guy there, that a guy waiting for him, which was kind of stupid on his part. And the guy thought he had Mike. So Mike played it off, and got the drop on him. Then you see Mike, tells him, you see Chow dead. Mike tells the guy, his name is Chris, and he sounds just like Jesse. He sounds like a deeper version of Jesse, a deeper voice, but it sounds just like Jesse. A little stature like Jesse too. You see Mike saying, who told you to do this? And then we found out that Lydia authorized the hit. The guy killed Chow for 10 grand, and Mike's hit was worth 30. And the guy pleaded to Mike and said, the cops took my money that Gus left me, and I had nothing, so I had no choice. And Mike said, I know. And then he said, are you ready? And the guy Chris tried to plead to him, and he got shot 4 times. And when he got up, he looked at him, was like, saddening in his eye, like, I had to kill my own men. So we go to the other scene where you see Lydia coming home to the nanny and her child, and Mike in there sitting in an ambush. And it shows the expertise of Mike and how dangerous Mike is. He sneaked past a house that was alarmed, and he still got in. So he puts the silencer on, and while Lydia walks, he cover her mouth and get her. And Lydia played it off like he wasn't in there, and she sent the nanny home. And her daughter, she wanted to told her daughter that she's gonna talk to her later, give her a story, bedtime story, I think. And they have a short conversation, and the conversation was about Mike telling her, like, you made me kill 2 good guys. 2 good guys died today because of you. You wanted to be slick. And she's crying and stuff, and she's like, don't shoot me in the face. And she's like, I don't want my daughter, I don't want my daughter seeing me. And he's like, no, nobody's gonna find you. Your daughter's not gonna find you. And then she's saying, oh, I don't want my daughter to be alone, and I don't want my daughter to be alone. I just want her to find me, knowing she's not alone. And to me, it seemed like a sign of weakness, which Heisenberg is going to exploit if Heisenberg and Lydia ever meet, and ever try to even stand in his way. I think she's probably going to be weaker than Jesse, in my opinion, if they ever meet. So, he tells her, I'm waiting till the nanny leave so I can kill you. And she's like, well, just don't shoot me in the face. And he tells her, she's screaming and said, just don't shoot me in the face, don't take me no place, don't bury my body, I want my daughter to discover my body. And the nanny leaves, and he hesitates. And I think the only thing that saved her this right there is he hesitated, and he thought about the money and everything that he was going to make with Walt. So he asked her, can she find methylene, the kind of stuff that you put for the meth, the stuff that Jesse and Heisenberg stole in season I think 2. So After that, Mike goes in the car and tells Heisenberg that, is everything still on? Do you still want to proceed with the plan? And he says, yeah, yes. And this is one of the best Heisenberg shots, well, one of the best Heisenberg can see. You see Heisenberg in a square, like, you know, in through the window, and it was kind of like a dark tone to show that his character is actually more darker than he was before. He no longer, you know, I think that's what it means. You know, he no longer is. He's no longer Happy Walt. He's always going to be portrayed in that kind of square light as being a dark individual, and it's just going to get worse. So, you know, he tells him, yeah, oh, I'm in. Mike says, I'm in, and he says, okay, good. And the last scene was Walt going into bed with Skyler, having a, you know, a fearful, she's scared of something. She's scared of something, or she's hiding something. So she looks scared. She looked really scared. And Walt takes his plans off and stuff, start kissing her neck, and tells her that it gets easier. Everything gets easier. All of this get easier. The thing that happened with Ted, just ignore it. If you do anything bad, he tells her, if you do anything bad, and if it's for a good reason, then you shouldn't worry. That's vintage. That's Heisenberg, man. That's super Heisenberg. But one of the things that every week you have to think about now is Walt has a tight hold on Jesse, but he doesn't have a hold on Mike. Mike is going to be a force for Heisenberg, and I think he's going to put Heisenberg in his place, which is going to be fun watching, because it's only going to be the third episode where you're going to see that dynamic, the trio dynamic happen. So and also I hope Walt meets Heisenberg meets, oh, my fault, it's going to be Walt meeting her, because she don't know who Heisenberg is. She don't know how dangerous he is. Walt meets Lydia soon, I hope. And then you have another dynamic where I think I think Heisenberg is going to have to gain more power. You know, Gus's shadow is still looming over in this season. It's still looming over with each and every episode. It's still showing how good and how great of a mastermind and how many people was affected by it. How powerful Gus was really was. And I think Heisenberg within each episode is going to have to get darker and absorb more power and absorb more and start taking more and more notes on how to be as powerful or probably more powerful than Gus. And I think that's going to show, you know, transition from Heisenberg becoming a low-level guy to only a couple people are scared of, to becoming a higher, you know, a criminal mastermind where he can call shots from other cities and other states and everybody knows his name and people scared of him. And I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. I see whoever's listening later. Well, next review.